Welcome to Unity of Wilmington's virtual service. We are here to expand consciousness and invite personal transformation. We are doing it in this moment and in all moments that we are being observed. And we're doing it in all moments that we're not being observed too. Thank you for your presence here in this moment, which is the right and perfect moment for you. We're excited to share with you about forgiveness today, the very blessing of forgiveness. I'm Reverend Nikki Golden. The talk, The Blessing of Forgiveness, will be given by Reverend Mindy Tucker. Let's begin by turning inward and coming into a time of prayer. Finding within us that place, that essence place that is our divinity. Tuning into that place. And as we rest our attention in that place within us, allowing our awareness to simply expand. No effort, simply great ease. And from that consciousness, we give thanks for the very essence of life. We give great gratitude for all that is in this moment, that which we understand and do not understand. And we come together, uniting our hearts across time and space, recognizing that when we tune into our own heart, from that place we can tune into all hearts, seeing how we are truly one with the divine and one with each other. And we do so from a consciousness of love. And so it is, and so we let that be. Amen.
When the blame opens up the window, you can't keep holding on, it's got your soul. When you're facing your darkest shadow, you choose your side in battle, blow by blow. You can fight the feeling, the pain is too deceiving. You just keep believing, but nothing's really wrong. Wait till tomorrow, it will be gone. Sorrow changes with seasons, sometimes with no reason. Just let it go. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. When your view is just of the ceiling, it's time to start the healing. Let it go. If your fears are making your decisions, you're always gonna struggle on your own. You can fight the feeling, the pain is too deceiving. You just keep believing, but nothing's really wrong. Don't be scared of your darkness. Wait till tomorrow, it will be gone. Sorrow changes with seasons, sometimes with no reason. Just let it go. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Don't wait till tomorrow, it will be gone. Sorrow changes with seasons, sometimes with no reason. Just let it go. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself.
Thank you, Heather. A powerful invitation, but take a breath into that, because sometimes it's easier said than done. Unity minister Greg Barrett tells the story about being in his late 20s and realizing that there was someone he needed to forgive. And he needed to forgive them because he felt like he'd come to the point in his life where he could not go on and continue to be in this state of seething resentment. So he started to employ all the unity spiritual tools and practices that he knew how, because he tried and tried and tried to forgive. He tried to affirm his forgiveness away. He tried to visualize his forgiveness away. And little by little, he began to feel better. But he knew that there was more work to do, because he had come to the point where he had recognized that forgiveness, yes, it requires a decision, but it's more than a decision, it's a process. And so he continued his inner work, and then one day he got to see how all of that inner effort had come to a head. He was the head of he was in charge of a conference in Palm Springs, and the keynote speaker was an acquaintance of his. And when she came up to him and they started chatting, he said, "Would you like to go meditate with me? There's my favorite spot on the whole planet is not far from here." And she said yes. So they got in the car and they drove from Palm Springs up through Joshua Tree National Park and through those big boulders. They wound their way and found a place that was very well named, called Hidden Valley. And there they sat to do meditation. And he says, well, at least she meditated. For in that moment of silence and in that quiet, it began to bubble up inside of Greg all over again. All of the resentment, all of the disgust, all of the loathing, the shame, and the guilt. And the guilt began to build, because here he was in this beautiful place, his favorite place to meditate on the whole planet, where this keynote speaker was. I mean, somebody who was really cool and very important, and who he almost saw like a rock star. She was meditating, and all he could think about was this uncontrollable urge he had to tell her all about his problems. And so the meditation went on. And when it was over, she opened her eyes, she smiled, and she looked at him, and he says, "I know I shouldn't be telling you this. I know it's not appropriate. It's just really, but I can't help myself." And he began to pour out his heart to her about this other woman that he'd had this long time resentment about, and how fresh it was. Well, his meditating partner, that keynote speaker, looked at him and smiled and said, "Greg, what you don't know is that I spent all of last week with this person, and I believe that she's ready to hear what you have to say." And Greg's immediate response was, "You don't know her like I do. I can't trust her, and I decided a long time ago that I would never have her in my life again." The other woman just smiled and took a breath. They got back in the car, and as they drove back down to Palm Springs, Greg recognized in his heart of heart, in his bones, that making that phone call was the next right step. And I love how he knew it in his heart of heart and in his bones. The proverb says that when we make a decision to follow the law, to step in and embody the law, to embody spiritual practice, then our body is nourished, health comes into our body, and nourishment comes into our bones. So it didn't take too many days before Greg picked up the phone and gave the woman a call, and you may be jumping ahead to think, oh yeah, I know how this turns out. That woman just said, wow, nice to hear from you. You know, that was just so yesterday. But that's not how it happened. That's not how it happened at all. Greg called her, and she denied that the event he was angsting about had ever happened. And if that wasn't astounding enough, that woman went on to say that actually the person Greg really needed to be talking about forgiveness was with this other guy. And this other guy, this man, had been carrying around a deep hurt and a deep resentment from something Greg had done many years ago. And that's how the phone call ended. So after he hung up and expressed himself appropriately and safely, all that outrage came up. Greg said he had the opportunity to realize that his forgiveness was not dependent on that other person, that his forgiveness was his own inner work, and that his ability to finally face her, to find his backbone, to find his courage, to face into the situation was the very beginning of forgiveness for him. And that was his gift to himself. It was his blessing. Not only that, upon further reflection, Greg realized he did have an interaction with that man, and he did need to make amends. He wanted to, and he called that man up, and that man couldn't have been more gracious. All in all, Greg ends his story by saying, forgiveness doesn't require the acceptance or the validation of anyone but ourselves. Forgiveness is a blessing. Forgiveness is a spiritual practice. It's a practice, it's a process, it's a journey. It's something we engage in over a period of time. I love the whole idea that it's more than just a decision. Rumi, the great spiritual master, said journeys bring power and life back into you. And I believe that forgiveness, the process, the journey, the whole experience, the blessing that we give ourselves is our way of reclaiming our love. It's our way of coming back into our power. It's our way of reclaiming our divine nature. This reclamation, this blessing, this process, this journey begins right here within us. Spiritual practices such as forgiveness and tithing and discovery all begin right here. We want to be free. We want to be prosperous. Now, prosperous is more than just money. Prosperity and prosperous really means well-being and wholeness. So when we want to get ready to reclaim our well-being and reclaim our wholeness, we're really saying we are open to receive in every aspect of our lives. We're open to receive peace of mind. We're open to receive healthy relationships. We're open to receive protection from negativity. And yes, we're open to receive abundance in our finances. This is what the unity movement, as a spiritual movement, wants for you. We want you to receive prosperity in all aspects of your life. I want you to receive prosperity in all aspects of your life. It's why I get up here every week to issue another powerful invitation for you to stand in love, for you to stand in your power, for you to have the courage to find your backbone in the face of any situation. And if you think about it, you want this for you too. You want the richness, the wholeness, the well-being, the peace of mind, healthy relationships protection from negativity, and financial abundance in every area and aspect of your life. Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, said, "The unpleasant condition is just temporary, and it is dissolved by the truth you are and have been thinking." We may think that racial injustice is systemic, but systems can be changed. We may have a fear of the COVID pandemic, but pandemics will pass. We may be at war with another person, another ideology, or even at war with ourselves. We may feel like we're in a financial bind. These are unpleasant experiences that I wouldn't want to wish on anybody. But Myrtle Fillmore goes on to issue this powerful invitation. She says, "Don't be disturbed by the temporary disorder." Ha! Don't be disturbed by the temporary disorder. See it as the efforts of soul and body to make adjustments, bringing to the surface the things that need attention and the baptism of spirit. My spiritual teacher used to say, things are coming up to be healed. Conditions, even if they're unpleasant, are presenting themselves to be healed. Our container is so full of love that there's enough love for these unpleasant conditions to come up and to be healed. Our consciousness is so full of love. Our wisdom has reached that crucial capacity. Our backbone, our strength, and our courage has found itself enough that we have a consciousness big enough to handle any unpleasant experience that is coming up to be healed. This unpleasant experience is a temporary disturbance, and we're invited not to be sucked into it. One of the ways that I find myself not getting sucked into it is I have a spiritual practice that I call the "I can't wait to see what good comes out of this" spiritual practice. Kind of a long name, but it has two components, and here's what they are. Acknowledge and face into what's going on, and expand perception of the good that is present and available. This is not a linear spiritual practice. It's not like step one, you acknowledge and face into what's going on, and then step two, you can have an expanded perception so that you can see the good, so then step three, you're done. It's not like that at all. These two components are fluidic. They have to go on at the same time. We have to have the courage to face into whatever's going on, because if we don't have that, we won't have the capacity for that expanded awareness, that expanded perception of the good. And unless we believe that there is inherent good in every situation, experience, or circumstance or condition, unless we believe that there's good in it, then we can't have the courage to face into, acknowledge, and accept what is going on. We have to do both at the same time, or we're engaging in what's called spiritual bypassing. If we do one without the other, we are spiritually bypassing, and we can't fully step into our prosperity, our peace of mind, our healthy relationships, our protection from negativity, or the abundance of our finances. We have to do both together. When we do one without the other, it's like getting caught in an eddy on the edge of a mighty river. We feel the movement, but we're not making any progress. We're not actually on a journey. We're not actually engaged in forgiveness. We're not engaged in life, because we're just swirling over here on the side. We're doing one without the other. And when we're in that kind of movement, polarities become entrenched. Beliefs harden. Fears deepen. And hurts our hurts know no bounds. My father was a magnificent storyteller. When my brother and I were little at bedtime, my dad used to tell us all kinds of adventurous stories of how he grew up wild on a farm in the Midwest. He and his next oldest brother, Joe, and best friend, Skinny, they would get into all kinds of outrageous adventures and quite often got in trouble for them too. But over the course of my lifetime, I got to hear more and more about my dad and what it was like for him growing up. I learned about the difficulties in his family life and how he celebrated his successful escape into a whole new world. In my growing up mind, I equated his adversity to a dislike for his parents. He never talked much about his father, but when he did, he would say things like, "He's a very harsh man," or "He was never satisfied." And when he talked about his mother, he talked about how she complained about all the hardships that they ever had, and moreover, why was it so hard in this lifetime, or how could it be so difficult in this lifetime to get everybody to church 3 times a week? Which is another lesson altogether. But in my growing up time, I never saw my father write a letter, and rarely did he make a phone call. They lived over 4,000 miles away from us. My grandmother only visited once. And by the time I graduated from high school, I can say that less than a handful of times did my dad ever see her. And so when she died, soon after I graduated from high school, I'll never forget it. I was standing in the kitchen, and I can remember it as if I was there today. My dad shared the news with me, and I turned around and I said, "Well, I guess that's a relief. You never liked her anyway." I know it was the most compassionate thing that I could think of in that moment. But also in that moment, I knew there couldn't be anything that was more wrong than what I said. And I didn't know how to take it back. So with all the spiritual and emotional maturity my 19-year-old self could muster, I pretended like I never said it. And I went on to illuminate or elucidate or create a list of all the things my dad was going to appreciate about his mother passing. Look, Dad, now you don't have to argue with your siblings about how you're going to contribute to her welfare. Look, Dad, you can take that money that you were spending on her and put it into a savings account so you can buy a fishing boat. But my thoughtlessness stayed with me for years. I could never fully laugh at my dad's jokes or his stories. All I could feel was that I was a failure, and I was ashamed because I had been so thoughtless and so heartless in a moment of my own father's vulnerability. He looked at me in that moment like I had slapped him, and that like he didn't even know me. And I continued to carry that with me, that hurt that knew no bounds, that phrase, those words that I felt were unforgivable. And then time began to run out. My father was dying. And in my spiritual and emotional maturity that I could muster, I went to my dad. I found the courage within myself because I wanted to make an apology. I sat there, and he was as patient as he had ever been with me, Now, it may be that he was patient because he was in a hospital bed and he couldn't go anywhere else, but he patted my hand all throughout my angst and my grief and my expression and my apology to him. And then he patted my hand some more. And he said, I'm so glad you finally got here. I am so glad. I forgave you years ago. That moment was a turning point for me, he said. He had never reflected on the gift of love that his mother had brought into his life. He was so determined and so full of grit to face what he had gone through that he had forgotten to look for the love. Forgiveness doesn't require agreement or validation from anyone. And when we get ready for it, we know it in our bones. We live into the proverb that we are ready to have a healthy body and nourishment in our bones. We are reminded that temporary disturbances are just that, temporary, that they are coming up to be healed. If we were to look at a recap of all the wisdom that we've gone through today, it would be this. Forgiveness doesn't require agreement or validation from everyone. The unpleasant condition is just temporary. This will bring health to your body and healing to your bones, and journeys bring power and love back into you. It is time to reclaim your prosperity, your well-being, your wholeness. It is time to reclaim your love and your power. It's time to reclaim your divine nature. It's not always easy, but you do have within you all the strength that you will ever need to straighten up your own backbone. You have all the wisdom. Your wisdom has reached that crucial capacity. Your consciousness is filled enough with love that anything can be overcome and can become a blessing for you. You are not alone on this journey. I am with you. The Unity Movement is with you. And even you, in your heart of hearts, in your own bones, know that you are not alone. So if you are willing to commit to this idea that forgiveness is a blessing, that the process is a blessing, that the journey is a blessing, and that you have all the capacities that you require, will you say this with me? I am not disturbed by the temporary disorder. I see it as the efforts of soul and body to make adjustments, bringing to the surface things that need to be healed. I acknowledge and face what's going on. I expand my perception of the good. I am a blessing. I am a blessing, and so are you. We don't need anyone, anything, any validation, anyone else's agreement to know that we are love, we are power, we are beauty, and we are a blessing. So let's come into a time of meditation, a time of integration by taking a breath and settling further into whatever position makes us feel most comfortable and releases us from a constraint of the outer. So sit with your back upright or lay down with your spine fully pressed to the foundation of the earth. Breathing in and breathing out. We begin with a decision, with a commitment, with a recognition and reclamation of our divine nature. Everything that God is, we are. Everything that God is, I am. And we breathe a little deeper. We open our hearts a little wider. And we notice more exquisitely the strength of the cells in our bodies, and especially the strength in our bones. For it is this structure that currently houses our soul, that seats our consciousness. We celebrate the seeds of love and power that have been planted in us. And we nurture them for their growth, their expansion is so incredibly vast. Further than the ear can hear, the eye can see. We are completely immersed in the love and the power and the blessing of the divine. We allow this blessing to fill the health in our bodies, the nourishment of our bones, to prosper our well-being, to nurture healthy relationships, to increase and deepen our peace of mind, to give us the strength, the backbone, to protect ourselves from negativity, and to demonstrate and manifest as abundance in every aspect of our lives. And for this power, this love, this consciousness, this blessing, we come back up into an awareness of our physical bodies. We come back up into awareness of the beauty that is all around us, the inherent good in everyone, in everything, every situation, every circumstance. And we now have the capacity to see it because we've had the courage to face it. And so it is. So it is, and so we let it be. Amen, amen, and amen.
We are blessed here by your presence. We are blessed here by your gifts of your tithes and your offerings. We are blessed by each moment that you open your heart and expand your awareness of the love that you are. There are many ways to give here. We invite you to tune in to your own heart space with gratitude, and from that energy, choose what you would like to give today or any day. You have many options. You can go to our website, unitywill.com. There's a donate button at the top. You can mail something in. Many of you have been doing that, and we're very grateful for that. You can do Facebook. You can do PayPal. Thank you for your generosity, for giving is generosity. And we invite you to give, not so that we are receiving. That is important. But we also invite you to give so that you are receiving. For that is the law. What we give comes back to us, and it comes back to us in a multitude of ways. So we give thanks in all ways that it's coming, and we bless it with divine love through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is.
This farewell, there's no blood, there's no alibi, 'cause I've drawn regret from the truth of 1,000 lies. So let mercy come and wash away what I've done. I'll face myself to cross out what I've become, erase myself and let go of what I've done, put to rest what you thought of me, while I clean this slate with the hands of uncertainty. So let mercy come and wash away what I've done. I'll face myself to cross out what I've become, erase myself and let go of what I've done. For what I've done, I'll start again, and whatever pain may come, today this ends. I'm forgiving what I've done. I'll face myself to cross out what I've become, erase myself and let go of what I've done. What I've done. I'm forgiving what I've done.
Thank you, Heather Setzler, Paul Miller.
So blessed today.
Yes, indeed.
So blessed.
Today's daily word is protection.
Of course it is.
The affirmation is, I shine my light and I feel protected.
I shine my light and I feel protected. What a beautiful blessing your light and my light are in the world. Thank you.
And as those lights come together, we expand the consciousness of this planet. There are many ways to do that, one of which is through prayer. We invite you to send your prayer requests in. You can do it on our website. You can send an email to me, revnikkigolden@gmail.com. You can call the office and leave a message. We continue to hold you in prayer for 30 days and then send the prayers to Silent Unity to be held for another 30 days in prayer. We know that prayer works, and prayer is the highest mind action on this planet.
Yes, and it is wonderful to have that prayer support. So thank you, Nikki, for inviting us into that. We don't want to end our time with you without telling you 3 very important things about yourself.
You are a beloved expression of God.
You are here for a holy purpose.
And you're in the right place at the right time, right now, in this moment.
Forgiveness does not require agreement or validation from anyone. It is a blessing you give yourself and to the world. Thank you for being you.